All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Dungan Mott Music and Movie Podcast reboot. This will be the final episode to carry the reboot title. We will then go back to the original title after this. But yeah, we're back again today with a brand spanking new episode, and this week was Steven's pick. So, Steven, what are we reviewing today?
We're reviewing Wheels of Fire by Cream from 1968, released on January 1st, actually, of 68, brother.
All right, and I forgot to ask you at the very beginning of the episode, how you doing today, Stephen?
Well, I'm doing great, brother.
That's good, and yeah, I don't have any facts about this album really at all. So
The only thing I would like to add, I forgot to say, it was produced by Felix Papalardi. I guess that's how you say it. And
oh,
Tom Dow was in there too, and another guy, but I can't remember to tell you the truth.
okay, all right. So with that said, I guess we can go ahead and jump into this album. You take the first, well, you take all the tracks actually, but go ahead and let's get into the first track, Steve.
All right, brother. The first track's gonna be "White Room." This was a staple for Eric Clapton throughout his live career. This was on the Goodbye tour also. Well, as along also with the rest some of the songs on this other album. Um, great great work here. Pretty much like I said, I've heard it so many times live and all. I've kind of grew the songs kind of grew on me because I've kind of always liked it. That's about the only thing I can say about it, really, because I've heard it so many times that it's a great song, and really, I don't think anybody would be able to come up with that riff like that. Not saying anybody can't play it like the White Room drum riff, but probably he's the only one that would come up with something like that because the time signatures are so different. That's one thing about Cream. The time signatures and all. If you really try to count in some of these songs, I mean, it'll be 6 or 7 beats in a bar. Really, really unique stuff. But what about you, brother?
All right, well, classic track. The beginning sounds like timpanis are being used during like the intro riff or whatever. Um, this version in particular has a much more epic sound to it, and overall an awesome song. Ginger Baker, awesome drummer. He to me carries this song and a lot of the other songs on this album. His drumming just to me sticks out. It's so unorthodox in places, but awesome and carries the song to me, and in my opinion. But it's been covered by Clapton after Cream disbanded and everything else. And also, a great version of the song was featured on Ace Frehley's Origins Volume 1 album, which was a covers album that he did a couple of years back or several years back. And great version on there. And I'm pretty sure it's been covered by many other artists here and there as well. Has a great groove by Ginger Baker. Great song. Love the track. And great guitar playing by Clapton. Great solo and good stuff. And the studio version fades out like unlike a lot of other versions that I've heard of the song that just basically ends in this pretty epic way. It kind of it fades out on this version. But that's all I have for this particular track. And I guess you can get into the next track, Steven.
All right, brother. The next track. This one was also done a lot live. This was a not by Eric in the next years, but on the Goodbye tour, especially live by Cream. Sitting on Top of the World. Oh, this was a blues number, kind of a more straight blues number. The only time that Cream really, I mean, there's blues tinges all in Cream stuff, but this is one of the only times that they do kind of straight blues. they're either doing blues or like this, or the only other kind of stuff they do really is improvisational, just very unique stuff. But this one pretty straightforward, kind of reminiscent of stuff Clapton does, all throughout his career live. The same type of lead playing, accompaniment, as he calls it, lead accompaniment. And really, this song has been stated by various artists, including Eddie Van Halen. I've heard to to have been the greatest live electric performance. So that's pretty interesting. But overall, great track as always. Great playing by Eric throughout this whole album as well. So to you, brother Z.
All right. Sitting on top of the world. Like you said, with this particular track, a lot of great impromptu jamming on it. Love it, and I mean, all throughout this album, there's just this impromptu jamming type stuff all throughout, and it's great British blues to me. Awesome song, great blues cover. Kind of a slower blues track in a way, and I love this track quite a bit. Jack Bruce's vocals are great, and Ginger Baker's drumming is awesome. It has this kind of unorthodox groove to it, and it's kind of Ginger Baker. He instead of playing the beat, he kind of plays with the rhythm of the guitar instead of like playing a straight beat throughout the song. He plays with the guitar itself, and that's really interesting about his type of playing. And great guitar solo by Clapton. Great stuff, awesome song, and Clapton's guitar playing was very good on this particular track, and all throughout. To me, this is some of Clapton's best playing during this era, and I love this track. Great track, and like I said, Clapton's guitar playing was very, very great. So, guess we can move on to the next track, Stephen.
Well, the only thing I would like to say about the sitting on top of the world, especially with this track, the notice the guitar tone. That has not been duplicated much. Nobody plays quite like that with that tone. I've personally I've never heard it on anything else much. That kind of really, really very much deep sound drive to it. It's really never not much. Not many people can get that tone. But anyway, moving on to the next track, "Passing the Time," which on this one, just like to add very briefly that it was part of the Goodbye tour. One of the songs that was featured on that, and I believe, just a side note, that on the Goodbye tour, Cream 1968, that they was alternate venues, and each venue. What I'm trying to get at, they would one time they would do "Passing the Time" with a Ginger Baker drum solo. Then the next venue they would do "Toad" with the Ginger Baker drum solo. I kind of doubt that they would do both in the same show, to tell you the truth. And it kind of proves that also that this song was on the third. I think it's the third disc or so of that, and Toad's not on that one, on that venue. Um, and as far as the song itself, I think they shouldn't have added all the bells to it and all that part, and the part where they say "passing the time," the sort of chorus part per se. I think it sounds better the way they did it live. If you go and listen to that, whoever's listening, and it'll go over a lot better than this. Um, the bell part and everything else. To me, the bells just don't go along with this genre or this style of music. But it's something that Cream, is kind of known for, adding things like bells and all that into this type of stuff. But I mean, I like the song itself, but I think they should have took out the intro itself is good, but the two parts after that are not very good, in my opinion. I think they should have did the drum solo on the record as well. like to do live. But to you, brother.
All right. Passing the time, kind of a weird psychedelic type song at the beginning. Really reminds me of very early Frank Zappa, and pretty good though for what it is. And I really like the melody. Has kind of a Beatles vibe to me. I like the violin and bells that's in the song, and kind of goes to this faster paced psychedelic type song afterwards, and it's pretty good as well. And it's kind of filler to me, but still good and interesting song nonetheless. And great groove by Ginger Baker kind of gives me a Mitch Mitchell of the Jimi Hendrix Experience. It gives me kind of that vibe with the groove. Good stuff. And from I put kind of in and out and done in my notes, so I'm assuming I meant kind of straight and to the point. Goes back into the weird beginning at the end. Good stuff. And is Clapton actually on this particular song, or because it's like I was wondering that.
Now live, I know he is. So I suspect, yeah, he is on this in the studio as well. I know Jack Bruce did some guitar work, but it wasn't any more than acoustic. I don't think, but he did do some.
Yeah. And I didn't know it was actually performed live. That's pretty interesting. I'm gonna have to look that version up because that seems like it would be interesting. And
Oh yeah, it's the live version only has the very first part of the intro, and then it goes straight to they go okay the jam after that for a while, and for about about a verse, then they just go into the drum solo.
okay. I had to look into that, but overall, I think it's good stuff. I think it's a good song, and I
And
guess
overall, I think that they should have stick to that formula that they did live instead of doing it like this, because it sounds kind of more off the wall, to tell the
yeah,
truth, on the record version.
yeah. But I guess we can move to the next song if you want to.
All right, brother. I wanted to make sure you didn't have anything else to say. But
No, I'm good. I'm good.
all right. So the next one is going to be the fourth track of the album. As you said, the only thing that comes to mind with this one is I like the guitar riff on it, but other than that, the song is very unique. Um, it sounds very Jack Bruce-ish. It sounds like something he would probably mostly come up with. I think it's credited to him and somebody else, and maybe it's him and Ginger Baker. That's the usual formula for the songwriting. Eric wasn't very involved with the songwriting. Maybe just the guitar part, but probably not the songwriting itself. That's something that would change a lot later. But anyway, it sounds like something Jack Bruce had a lot to do with writing, and the track's overall decent, but I mean, it like you said, sort of fillerish, but not as much as we get as the stuff at the very end of the album. I think this one belonged on the album, to tell you the truth, but I like I like the guitar riff, and really the song itself is okay-ish. That's the only thing I could say about it. So I guess to you, brother.
All right. Kind of in the same vein as the previous song, but I really like the track. Kind of gives me a "Can't Find My Way Home" by Blind Faith vibe, sort of, and pretty cool song. Has kind of a late era Beatles feel, and kind of a Frank Zappa feel, kind of Beatles and Frank Zappa mixed together. Good stuff. Love the vocals and the escalation at the end of the verses. Cool song, and it's acoustic with a kind of violin added in. I like that quite a bit. Good song. Kind of loses me at the beginning, but that's pretty much it. And this also gives me a very progressive rock type vibe, and kind of reminds me of something that Rush would do. But overall, I think it's a very great song, and that's pretty much all I have to say. What about you?
Well, The only other thing I have to say is that Jack Bruce played, I think it's called cello, if I'm not mistaken, on this
Okay.
album. So I'm not sure exactly how that sounds. It might even be. I think that is a violin that you're talking about. But like I said, I'm not real familiar with what a cello would sound like. But
The cello is the strings, so it's probably that's the string type stuff we're hearing, like the violin and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, I guess so because it isn't credited to anybody else playing it. I guess so. All right, so you ready to move on to the next one, brother?
Yeah, sure. Let's go ahead.
All right. The next one's going to be Press Rat and Warthog. This is probably the most unique song I've ever heard in my life. Um, Ginger Baker wrote it, him and a lyricist, I'm assuming. This is probably the case. It's basically halfway not even a song. It's really just him talking over music. But I mean, the tune's pretty good, and it wasn't ever done live until the Cream reunion tour 2005. I'm thinking that's probably the only time it was done live. And the story goes that somebody was pressuring Ginger Baker into doing it, or he wouldn't have even done it then. But it's very interesting on the live version of this. He plays and he plays drums and sings at the same time, but he has to have a mic, like somebody's talking, like a preacher or something, like a mic on your face. That's how he had to do it live. He probably didn't have to do it like that in the studio because you can just overdub and all. But that's an interesting story. I guess. Well, and overall on the song, I mean it's kind of okayish. I mean, it's kind of off. The lyrics are kind of off the wall. To tell you the truth, the whole album, the lyrics sound like somebody that was on drugs or something wrote them. Which I wouldn't be surprised if they actually were.
I was fixed
But
to say the same thing.
and anyway, that's about all I can say for this one. But it's kind of just for the heck of it. I kind of like the song because of the story and all, and he on the Cream 2005 reunion, he actually said that was actually real, and they had actually opened it back up or whatever. I'm not sure what that's all about, but that's just what he said.
Okay.
And I don't know. Are you ready to move? Okay. Have you? Okay, you haven't made your comment yet, have you, brother?
Nah, it's cool, but
Yeah, I have. I talk so long sometimes I'll forget.
it's fine. But pressed rat and warthog. I did not even realize that this was Ginger Baker on vocals. I never even knew that until you just said something. And I didn't. And I also put at the bottom, was this ever performed live? You answered my question there too. I'm definitely going to look this up to see the live version because I definitely want to see this. But another kind of Beatles esque type song, um, kind of more late Beatles, something I could picture this on like Sergeant Pepper or something like that. But kind of it's a pretty cool psychedelic type song, and like you said, the lyrics are super interesting. I'm kind of like you. I wonder what kind of substances they were dabbling in at the time because man, I mean, the lyrics are definitely very interesting. And you said Ginger Baker wrote the lyrics to this track.
Well, I said that he probably had I think the credit said Ginger Baker and somebody else I'd never heard of. So I'm assuming that they had a lot to do with writing the lyrics. Well, I mean he has written songs before, and it just be credited to him, like on the Blind Faith album.
Yeah,
There was a song called "Do What You Like." I think that was
yeah,
it, and he wrote that the lyrics and everything. I think, and he writes pretty poetically. So I mean, I wouldn't. It's not unbelievable that he would have wrote these lyrics, but I think, no, seeing that other guy was on there, whoever, I think it was probably he had something to do with writing the lyrics. and the music was probably more Ginger's part. But
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking about it.
Okay. And getting back to the song real quick, the horn is very interesting that is on the song. Pretty cool Clapton solo, and just I put a little note here. These past three songs, this song and the previous two before it, I did not expect this at all because this is actually the first Cream album I've heard in its entirety, and I never expected Cream to do stuff like this. I kind of thought it was all kind of British blues, pretty much, but yeah, that's pretty. It sure surprised me, but with that said, Pressed Rat Warthog, I really, really enjoy, and I guess we can move on from there, Steve.
Yeah, brother. Cream, like I said earlier, it's either blues, like kind of deep roots type blues, or British, or whatever you want to call it. Um, well, it's either they're either doing that, or it's pretty much improvisational. Um, and a good example of that would be this song. But as far as, and also all the studio work on this whole album. But moving on to the next track, assuming that you're ready, brother.
Yeah, let's go with it.
All right. The next one, Politician, a very iconic song, a very iconic riff. Pretty much, I think they wrote this one off the cuff, and they did it a lot live, and it's very unique. There's not a lot of stuff there, anything like this. The riff, and I mean, really, it's so simple, but it's one of the best ever, really, in my opinion. And if you think about it, the structure of the song, it requires Eric to add fills after every time he plays the riff, or the main riff. So that adds a very interesting, kind of taste to it, that he has to add those fills and everything. And that's another reason why it's so unique, because he's forced to add those fills in there and everything, and it kind of shows his ability a lot more than some of these other songs. He does solos and stuff on them, but on Politician, especially live, it kind of shows his ability that he would show a lot later on to fill in music the way he does with guitar. So, what about you, brother?
All right, Politician, classic Cream. Back to some more bluesier stuff at this point on the album. Um, I kind of think it is. I think the live version is superior to this version. I kind of like the live version. I believe it's on Goodbye, right?
Oh yes, multiple times.
And I think that the live version flows a lot better, and I have to say I like the live version better than this. But still, with that said, to me this is the best track on the album. Ginger Baker, I mean, what is there left to say? Ginger Baker kills it on drums. Love it. Politics, politics, politics. I mean, the lyrics just, I mean, I love the lyrics to the song. Good song overall, and some great guitar work by Clapton. And that's pretty much all I have for this particular track. So I guess we can move on if you ain't got anything else to say, Steve.
Well, the only other thing that I forgot to say earlier was that this something that stuck out to me is they played this song a little bit differently than they do live too. And it's even
Yeah,
and the riff, it's like
yeah,
they keep it going a little bit longer. That's the only way I can think to describe it. They just keep the main riff. They just play it about another bar longer, and it really doesn't sound right to me. Like you said, I think it goes over a whole lot better live. Just like
yeah,
any of this stuff, to tell you the truth, all of
yeah,
this goes over better live. But that's just because live, Cream, they have to show off their instrumental talent, because there's
yeah,
only they're limited to that, and they're forced, they're forced to pretty much just show their abilities in full. I guess what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
But
and I will say, I mean, Cream is a live band. They're in all essence, to me, a jam band. I mean, they're made to get out and perform in front of an audience. I mean, I mean, great musicianship all the way through this, and yeah, like you said, the live version of this song is a bit different. Even the drumming is. I like the drumming more live because it kind of Ginger Baker plays a lot more with the rhythm of the guitar on the live version than he does with this version, and I like that a lot better as well. But you can go ahead and move on if you're ready, Steve.
all right, brother. Um, the next track, the seventh track of the album. This is going to be "Those Were the Days." Um, this is unique as well. If I'm not mistaken, Ginger Baker had a lot to do with writing this one. I think the credit was to Ginger Baker, or maybe somebody else, but I'm not sure about that. But Ginger definitely had a big part in arranging all these songs. I would like to add, but just for this one, it's a very different instrument choice. Uh, it's kind of what I had wrote down, and what I mean by that is just like all the bells and whistles added to it, and all this different stuff. Like that's why I say Cream is so much better live because they could do without all that, all them different bells and when I say bells and whistles, I literally mean bells. But you get the
Yeah,
point of what I'm saying.
yeah,
But
yeah.
anyway, very off-color lyrics, just like this whole album. But this one in particular with the lyrics, I don't know, to tell you the truth, what it's talking about. But it doesn't matter because this genre doesn't rely on lyrics anyway. It's just it's more based on instruments. But to you, brother Z.
All right. Those were the days, like you said. Interesting lyrics. I really do like the song though. I love the bells and the extra percussion in it. And great track, great drumming by Ginger Baker. Great guitar solo and groove from Ginger Baker on. Well, great guitar solo by Clapton and great groove by Ginger Baker. Great stuff overall, and kind of has this more psychedelic kind of vibe to it. So a return to that kind of stuff on this album as well. But that's all I have to say pretty much. Is there anything else you got to say, and we'll move on?
The only thing is it was funny what you said. I wish Ginger Baker would do a guitar solo. I want to see. I wanted to know what that would sound like.
Yeah.
But on to the next one, I guess, brother. Born Under a Bad Sign. This is kind of, to me, just kind of in the same essence of Sitting on Top of the World. That same blues style, and really, tell you the truth, it sounds better slowed down to me. They did it the slowed down version on the 2005 reunion,
Yeah.
and I think that went over a lot better than this because it sounds a lot more bluesier and really what the song is supposed to be if it's slowed down, and really the tempo that they played it at is more reminiscent of like rock or something. But I mean, the song itself, I mean, blues is not, it's not going to blow you away really with the song itself. It's just kind of overall about the spirit of it, I guess you could say. But really, I love the guitar riff, the main riff of the song, the blues riff and all. That's probably one of the most iconic ones of all time too. Um, and it's probably used a lot more than people think. People don't realize it, but they copy this song and stuff like this a lot when they play blues. But to you, brother.
All right. Born Under a Bad Sign. That's where we're at, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I was confused. My notes shifted on me, but because I got them on my phone and my notes shifted up. But Born Under a Bad Sign, great song. Back to the Blues on the album. Great groove by Ginger Baker. Awesome stuff. Classic Cream. Love it. And it has this is the one track on the album I can say has a very live feel to me. It's a very live sounding track, very raw, and love it. Great guitar and great guitar work by Clapton and great bass work by Jack Bruce. He has this very thunderous bass tone throughout this whole entire album. Great stuff, or I put good stuff, but great stuff, great solo, and overall a great track. And up to here, this whole album to me has been great stuff. And that's pretty much all I have to say. I had something else to say, and I forgot what it was. But if I think of it, I remember the version that Clapton he brought this back when he done the From the Cradle tour. He started doing this song as well, and I like that version as well. It's a much more stripped down bluesy version with the horns and everything else with it. But I like that version as well, the kind of more slowed down bluesy version.
And that's kind of hard to believe. I've heard it before, the one you're talking about, of a rehearsal of this or something like that. Like you said, from the Cradle tour with
Yeah,
this. But it's kind of hard to believe that he would do something like this. And he
yeah,
really, and I mean, he took it and really totally changed it. He made it into, he kind of conformed it to that style more.
yeah. And
But then he went,
also,
yeah.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say that he kind of did it to go went back to the other way, obviously with the Cream 2005. But what about back to you, brother?
Oh, I was just gonna say the version I heard before this of this track was actually Albert King's version, and he does a great version, but it's much more in style of what Clapton did on the From the Cradle tour. He did a version by himself, and I also heard a version with him and Stevie Ray Vaughan together, and it's very good. But that's all I have, Elwood. So we can move on here if you want to.
All right, let's see. The next one is going to be track number 9, correct?
Yep.
Okay, making sure we're on the right one. So,
Yeah, we're good.
deserted cities of the heart. This is one that even Clapton himself has stated has very weird lyrics, along with the rest of anything Cream does, just about. You know, if you ever tried, for example, if you try to listen to stuff like White Room, it's a good song, but if you ever try to analyze the lyrics of that song,
Not really.
and you just about can't, is the point. that was
Yeah.
that was kind of a, you know, anyway. Deserted Cities of the Heart. I like the live version on Goodbye Cream too. There's only one. I believe there's only one version of it on the album of Goodbye Cream. I know I keep going back to that. It's because I like comparing these because it was from the same year, 1968, to the live version,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
fact that I like that it goes over better. And really, that holds true to this one especially because it's kind of a little bit more slowed down in this, and it kind of just creeps along. And to tell you the truth, the live version it goes more on the rhythm of it, and it's just kind of more of a driving beat. And I think that's what really makes the song live.
Deserted Cities of the Heart. I accidentally put Deserted Cities of the Heat, but I guess because I was hot at the moment, I wrote it down or whatever. But written it down, whatever the case may be with it. But great stuff. Kind of back to the psychedelic type stuff that was here on earlier on the album, and great song. End of the studio part of the album. The strings in particular add a lot to this song, in my opinion. Great solo, great drumming, awesome song, good stuff. That's all I have. And if you're ready, we can move on.
All right, brother. The next track, the first of the live section of this, which there's only 4, if I'm not mistaken, live stuff.
Yeah.
But the section winds up being pretty long because of a few tracks. this one wasn't too extended out, but the next couple of ones are going to be. Crossroads, probably the most done song ever by Eric Clapton. Um, he's probably done this one probably thousands of times, maybe even literally. But
I thought it's the most dumb song by Eric Clapton. I was like, whoa, what the world?
yeah, the one done the most live anyway.
Yeah, I
But
got.
yeah, the recording it doesn't really even sound live. The recording itself, there's not much crowd noise if any, and the recording is that good. I mean, all this stuff is recorded very well live. I don't know how. I mean, comparing to the stuff like on Goodbye Cream, there was some stuff that was pretty good. Then you get to the Royal Albert Hall section of it, and then it's completely just. I mean, the recording is like trash. You can make out what they're doing, but there's just this constant buzz over the whole thing. The
Yeah,
recording, it just amazes me how good the recording was. If it was recorded live, which I know it was, but anyway, the track itself has always been a staple and always been one of my favorites, done by countless amounts of bands. So even Skinner. So what about you, brother?
classic track. Awesome stuff. Classic blues song. Differs very much from the original version by Robert Johnson. Crossroad Blues, extremely different compared to that original version. The Skinner version's awesome. They're basically covering this version of the song, but they do amp it up a little bit and add some different type stuff in there here and there. But probably the best known song on the album besides White Room, and overall to me, great stuff. That's all I have to say about
Something I
it.
would
And
like to add that reminds me about the Skinner, like you mentioned, or I mentioned first, but Alan Collins was featured on that version, and it was really, I mean, the recording itself, it almost sounds like it's done in the style of Cream and the mix. I think there might be one more guitar in there. That's probably
yeah,
Gary Rosington, but it's so low in the mix you can't even make it out. So really, overall, the track when Skinner did it, it was like Cream live doing it because all you could hear
yeah,
was bass, drums, and Alan, doing the riff and then doing all the solos. And the last thing I would like to add is Alan. You could tell he's very much, um, you know, I can't think of the word when it comes to it, but uh, he plays a lot like Eric. I can't even think of the word, but on this particular one also, and I can kind of see why, but at the same time, if I think about it, I think about some of his other playing, like he does like Alan Collins does a wah wah solo on on a track by Skinner. I think it's something like Needle in the Spoon. I think it's called. That
yeah,
one is, if you hear the wah stuff on the White Room, it's it's very much like Eric's playing,
yeah,
but it's kind of that, not the same tone quite, but just the playing itself. I mean, it's very reminiscent.
yeah. And I would like to add before we move on, Alan, from if I remember right, I read. I mean, Alan Collins was like a big Clapton was a huge influence on him as a guitar player, and you can very much tell. But and I was also going to say with these live tracks in particular, I I didn't really listen to them to take notes on them. But as far as that goes, I knew most of these tracks well enough to kind of just jot some stuff down and be done with it. But we can move on if you're ready.
All right, brother Z, we spent quite a while on that track, but
Yep. While you're doing that, I'll be right back.
all right. So the next track's gonna be Spoonful, a 16-minute version of Spoonful. They they uh they would have been better off if they would have just They wouldn't have bluesed it up so much, really. In my opinion, I think they should have kind of made it into more of a rock feel, because it kind of just drags along too much, and it's just overall it just doesn't go over as well. I mean, even live, obviously, because this is live too, but even in the versions on the album Goodbye Tour, Cream Tour, doesn't go over quite as well. I don't mind the fact that it goes 16 minutes long within itself. I like the jamming with the song, but like I said, I think they should have sped it up some. And really, the Spoonful, it was very highly requested live with the all the tours really they did.
Yeah.
But I remember this one in particular with Goodbye Cream Tour. There was this, they did it like 4 times on the album, Spoonful, and it was probably their most popular one they ever did, really, because that live they were chanting Spoonful. I mean, everybody, it sounded like in the whole place was saying play Spoonful. And then they said, all right, we'll do a spoonful. And then they got 16 minutes of Spoonful. So
Yeah.
they got what they wanted pretty much, what I'm trying to get at. And it was very, very popular. Probably along with maybe White Room, they're most popular at the time. And the next one not the next one, but a couple of next ones down, Toad we're gonna get to. That was one of their most popular ones, and that's kind of unexpected to be very popular in my mind, being just an instrumental. But I guess to you now, Brother Z.
All right. Well, classic blues track, awesome song, and like you said, a very long jamming song. I mean, a long blues jam throughout, and that's pretty much all I have for this particular song. So yeah, I guess we can move on from there.
All right, Z. Next to the last track on the album, we're on track 12, I believe. It's Train Time, and this one you can tell. I mean, it's like deep roots Mississippi blues stuff. I mean, this is where it all started with the blues, this type of stuff here, and maybe even just with the harmonica. But with the harmonica and the drums, it really it adds a very good element to it, in my opinion. And to tell you the truth, that the fact that Eric didn't add anything in is kind of surprising to me, because blues has always been Eric's thing per se, and with the harmonica they did live when they did um, a couple of different ones live like this with the harmonica with Jack Bruce, but on this one they didn't. It's just Jack Bruce on harmonica and Ginger on the drums. And I would like to add that I'm not a drummer per se, but it seems like to keep that constant of a rhythm like Ginger did in this song. I know it's repetitive and all, but I mean, just to keep it going just so perfect like that and perfect timing, it just kind of amazes me how you can even do that. Like, it's almost not like he's a human like that or something. He's so rhythmical. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, the other songs, it's not so hard, but with something like that, with something that's just so repetitive and fast and just has to be perfect timing and all that, I just don't see how he does that, to be honest. The level of difficulty to me is very high on all aspects of this song. But
Yeah.
it just goes to show the musicianship. But to you now, brother.
All right, and I didn't really talk about it earlier, but I mean, there's several tracks on here I didn't know off the album, and this is one of them. I'm not going to backtrack, go any other songs or anything like that that I didn't know, but this was one I didn't know off the album. But it's a cool song, like you said, harmonica and drums. No guitar on this particular track. And you answered my question. I was assuming that it was Jack Bruce on harmonica, and overall, just a pretty cool blues track. And yeah, I mean, Jack Bruce keeping that steady of a beat like he did. I mean, Ginger Baker, excuse me, keeping that steady of a beat. I mean, he's got his chops down, that's for sure. But that's pretty much all I have for this track. I had something else to say, and I've done forgot what I was going to say by now. But yeah,
Well,
I
this
guess we put it
song
on.
also. All right, after this song is kind of tedious to listen to because just I mean it's not much. It's only two instruments to begin with and vocal, obviously. But it's just if you don't listen to a lot of stuff that has harmonica in it, like I don't really, except for maybe Bob Dylan. But that doesn't not even to this extent. Like I mean, people bands that are this popular are individual solo people. They just it's not very common to feature a harmonica at all, and that's just goes to show you about the instrumental, you know, technique of all these folks. It's really hard to do to be that good at different instruments like that, and they are like Jack Bruce. He can play bass. I guess he can play guitar as well, obviously, because it's sort of the same thing. But then you got harmonica too and cello, and I mean his instrumental ability is really it doesn't have any limits, it seems. But and vocals are pretty good on this one, for the track. But I guess that's it for that one. Is that all you have to say, Brother Z?
Yeah, I had something else to say, but I done forgot about what it was. So we can move on now.
All right, brother. The next one and last track, the 13th track of the album, Toad, which uh, which was pretty popular at the time, and it's kind of like I said earlier, it's kind of surprising to me that it was being an instrumental, and the fact that it has pretty good long drum solo. If I had to guess, I'd say 7 minutes, something like that. Being on this album, it's 16 minutes long, but on the live version, they only do it like 10 minutes, I think. Or I might be getting it mixed up with passing the time. I think I am, but really, I think that the tune really is just overall really good. That's probably why it was so popular, because a lot of people um, probably wouldn't relate to a drum solo that much, but because they probably just don't try hard enough to listen to it. But along with White Room, I think this is the best song to listen to on the album. It really goes back to why it was popular and all. That's probably why the tune. It's the ones that have kind of resonated. The songs that have kind of resonated from this album have been White Room, Toad, and really that tune of Toad, and also Politician. Those three have really resonated throughout the years, and they're really the most recognizable tunes. Also, you might have heard it, and you don't know where you heard it from. It's one of them kind of things. So and also uh, Ginger Baker, great solo and everything. He's a great drummer. That's all I can say. The only person that does live drum solos like that is people like Jim Gordon, and there's a couple of others, but that's a rare occurrence also. Just a drum solo period live. Not many bands at all do that. So back to you, brother.
All right, Toad, great jam song at the beginning, then goes into the drum solo. A great drum solo, awesome drum solo. Thunderous bass by Jack Bruce once again. Awesome track, love it. And this track totally sold me on Ginger Baker. And yeah, great drummer, one of my favorites now. But yeah, that's the end of the album. Is there any other tracks that were tossed around for this or anything else?
Well, I didn't do a ton of research, to be honest, so I wouldn't know exactly. But I'm assuming not the way this album is structured, and I'll tell you why. Because if they're gonna add four live tracks, I'm and blues oriented stuff, with the exception of Toad, that was an original. But the rest of them, they usually didn't. They probably didn't have any more material to add, so they just decided to show off their instrumental ability and make it a double album. it's probably what they did. So, and also to end, the closing remarks for me, what I'll just go ahead and say for me would be Cream goes over better live, and this album I would overall give probably a good 6 to 7 out of 10, probably more of a 7 out of 10. It's just because it's not because they extended them out the songs. I like that they did that. I just don't like that they added so many bells and stuff to it, and the cello and stuff was fine, but I don't really like bells with this kind of stuff. It doesn't fit really. So I could do without all the bells and whistles per se, in this album. And other than that, really, I mean, it's an okay album. That's my sentiment to it overall. It's just okay. The stuff, the version, the songs that they did do live from this album went over really good. But the other ones, I can understand why they wouldn't do live. And I'll just leave it at that. So, what about you for the overall album, brother?
Overall, I think this is a great album, from start to finish. This is going to be another episode where our opinions kind of differ. I mean, the past several episodes have been that way, other than like the 5150 episode where we both pretty much bashed that album from start to finish of that, other than some songs here and there. But I'll give this album a 10 out of 10. Good stuff. I really enjoy listening to this album. I listened to this album twice prior to the review. But is that all you have to say? Any other final thoughts on this album?
Well, I would just respond to your comments that surprises me quite a bit that you would like this album that much. Because, now that I think about it, no, it really doesn't. Because you listen to stuff like Frank Zappa, and this is in the same sort of realm, isn't it?
Pretty
As
much,
that.
yeah. Yeah.
Maybe not as jazzed up as Frank Zappa, but you know what I mean as far as just the overall just kind of randomness. There's a very much sense of randomness to this whole album, and stuff that really ordinarily would not fit with whatever you would call this genre. Probably, I mean, like Ginger Baker said, you can't put that in a box, especially Cream in a box. Nobody knows what genre it is, and because nobody ever duplicated it or did anything like that enough to people to really want to name it. So, um, Cream. That's just the way Cream goes, though, and that, yeah, like I said, that surprises me a lot that you would like the album that well, because usually the person that suggests the album would have sort of a better taste to it or whatever, but I was interested to see what you would think about it, because I always thought it was kind of a random album, and overall, just kind of there's a lot of improvisation of stuff, and I like that, but a little bit too much improvisation. But
Yeah.
I like improvisation, but with the bare instruments like guitar, bass, and drums. When you start going into bells and stuff like that, I don't like it. And
Yeah.
I guess that's my closing remark, brother. And then you can say whatever, and then we can end it up, I guess.
All right. And I will agree. I think the band goes over a lot better live because I think you get the full kind of, trying to think of the word. I guess you could say the full vibe of the band live better than studio. But with that said, I mean, like I said, I think it's a very cool album. It is, like I said, some of it did catch me by surprise because there is some tracks I didn't know off this album. Mainly the tracks I didn't know were the ones that caught me by surprise because I expected it to be pretty much total all blues. And I mean, you surprised me that you thought it was kind of random in places, but I mean, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I said this was the first Cream album that I heard all the way through. I want to say that this is actually my second because I believe I heard Goodbye, the actual album Goodbye, before this. But And then I believe I've also heard one of the live Cream albums, the compilations that they put out. I heard one of those, but I mean, overall, I really enjoyed this album, and this is kind of the first full-on album review that we've done to where we touch base back with Clapton since the first episode. Of course, we did the discography review in between all of this, but this is the first full-on album review that we've done of kind of something related to Clapton since that episode, and that's pretty interesting. But I mean, other than that, I don't have a whole lot else to say. Other picks of the week, I guess we could go ahead and do. Do you have any picks of the week this week, or a music, movie, whatever?
Yeah, recommendation. Yeah. Well, I think me and Devon was talking about watching Halloween 3, I believe it was, because I told him I'd watch Halloween 2. Probably Halloween 3, because like you said, it has a very different idea overall for the album movie. I'm so used to talking about music, but anyway, uh, yeah, I think that would be a good one to watch because it's interesting, and I haven't even looked into it yet. But I read the kind of a summary of it. I looked it up, and it looks very interesting to me. And you said that was one of your favorites, brother.
That's my favorite sequel. So
All right, well, that's the one I recommend. So Halloween 3, I guess. And as far as music, uh, probably something else like this. I'll just kind of make it broad, and just go listen to some Frank Zappa and see what I mean when I kind of compare this stuff to Frank Zappa that we just like Cream Wheels of Fire, because I guess you know what I'm trying to say when I say sense of randomness. It just seems so out of touch with like any kind of other genre, like a mix of so much stuff. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? But
yeah.
just go listen to some Frank Zappa, anything by Frank Zappa, and you'll know what I mean, especially with the bells. But what about you, brother?
As for movies, I'm going to go with a sequel, and Halloween 3. Um, I also say I'll recommend that one as well. But a movie I recommend is 1986 is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. It was directed by the same person, Toby Hooper, who had directed the first movie. Written by Ellen Kit Carson. Crazy movie. Crazy movie. It was more of a horror comedy. I mean, basically what Toby Hooper said was that the original was noted for being this bloodbath, but really didn't have any gore in it. It was just the grim nature that kind of fueled the movie for what it was. And in this movie, I mean, it's an all-out gore fest from start to finish, and um, I mean, great movie. Probably one of my favorite movies and one of my top sequels of all time. I love the movie, so I recommend that one. And as for music, I'm going to go with something kind of, well, pretty much what you recommended. I'm going to go with 1970s Frank Zappa's Chunga's Revenge. Um, the title track alone makes that album for me. Let me go look at some other tracks. Remember the track Road Ladies was a good one, kind of a more bluesier track. I like that one. Transylvania Boogie's awesome instrumental. Um, Tell Me You Love Me, classic Zappa. Charlena is a great track, which was later redone for Them or Us in a slightly altered arrangement. And overall, a great album. And very much, like you said, this Chunga's Revenge and early Frank Zappa stuff is very much in line with this. And yeah, that's all I have. And a- as for next week's review, do you have anything else to say, Steve?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. As for the next review that you hear, let me go look in my stack of CDs over here and pick me out something to review real quick. Okay, that's gonna be a little bit of a pause or silence, but actually I'm going to pick one I don't have. Well, I do have it actually. Black Sabbath's "Never Say Die" from 1978. Um, that'll be the next episode. Is that good with you, Steve?
I reckon, brother. I ain't never heard of it, so that'll be very interesting.
Okay, but that's been another episode of the Dungan Mott Music and Movie Podcast reboot. Like I said, this will be the last episode with the moniker of reboot attached to it. Things will go back to the original title after this comes out. A lot of great episodes in the back catalog. 5150 will be up. We're recording this on a Monday. It'll be up this Thursday at 12 p.m. Central Time, and I mean, looking forward to hearing some feedback on that episode. I recorded with the guys from the Freeform Rock podcast a couple of weeks back, and or a week or so back, and the episode had received a good bit of views for it, which I'm very happy with, and that's part of the Danger Zone the Danger Zone podcast, which is part of my YouTube channel, and I'm going to be doing some other episodes. I'm also planning to do some commentaries here pretty soon. And I mean, go support this channel, the Dungan Mott Music and Movie Podcast channel, as well as my YouTube channel, Steven's YouTube channel, and you can find us on Anchor.fm, and of course on Anchor you'll hear a little advertisement or something before the actual review. So that's pretty much all I have. You have any other closing statements, Steve?
I guess so, brother. Something I would like to say. I feel like this one was probably a lot longer, or it felt longer recording it. I know there was an interruption earlier, but something happened with it. But I guess we're gonna edit it together and all, to where you won't notice the interruption.
Yeah.
But it felt like this one has been pretty long. I don't know how long it's gonna turn out to be, but probably an hour, close to an hour and a half, maybe even. So, but I think this has one of been the more fun ones to record. I felt like I've had a lot to say in this one, probably a lot more than other episodes.
Yeah.
But I guess that's about it for me, brother. What about you?
That's pretty much all I have to say as far as all of this goes. I've enjoyed recording this. It's been a fun one, and like with I had something else to say, and I've done forgot what it was by now. But that's pretty much all I have. Hope you enjoy this episode. Thank you all for listening. Stay safe out there. Stay healthy. God bless you all. And as I say always at the end of every episode, see you next time, everybody.